was done chasing and climbing the corporate ladder, and every day was just getting more and more resentful. So ultimately, I made the decision to leave corporate and start my own thing.
Hello and welcome to Your Career Revolution presented by the Entrepreneur Source. My name is Mike Toper and I'm extremely excited for the conversation we're going to have today. We've got a special guest joining us and we're going to get to him in just a moment. First, I'd like to bring in my co-host. She is the Chief of Brand Ideology for the Entrepreneur Source, the queen of entrepreneurship. Her name's Tamara Loring. Tamara, the April showers have brought May flowers, and now we're really into the swing of things. How's everything in your neck of the woods?
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this call, Mike, all week long. We're joined by a fellow dreamer, so I cannot imagine what conversations we're going to have today that will help people reimagine and reclaim the life of their dreams. So I am stoked.
Let's bring him in right now. We're joined by Brett Trainor. He is the creator and founder of the Corporate Escapee. It's a community as well as a podcast that kind of helps members of the Generation X corporate landscape find financial freedom, flexibility, independence, and he's been doing this for a number of years here. And Brett, thank you so much for joining us. First, I was just hoping you could kind of talk to the audience a little bit about your background, because you were in that corporate rat race, so to speak, for decades. Could you just kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And one, thanks for having me. I'm super excited about this. I love what you guys are doing. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And yeah, I used to say almost 30 years. It was close to 30 years in corporate America. Decided to end my corporate career in management consulting, because that's what you should do at the end of corporate is take that path, and just hit the wall. And one day, I was probably building up over time. That's, what am I doing? What am I running for? I was done chasing and climbing the corporate ladder. And every day was just getting more and more resentful. So ultimately, I made the decision to leave corporate and start my own thing. And it was a solo consulting practice, and then kind of evolved into fractional leadership, and then uncovered a few other revenue streams. But then the idea of the corporate escapee, I'm like, there's got to be other folks in Gen X that are feeling the same way that I was. And just I think it was in November. So I've been playing around with the idea, to your point, for a couple of years, but then got serious about it. I actually got on TikTok in November just to have a little bit of fun with it. And what is it, November of last year? And as we hit to May, I think it has crossed, I'm closing in on 23,000 followers, Gen Xers that are absolutely done within corporate and looking for their way out. So found that chord that resonated with a lot of people. I thought there'd be a handful of us. There's a lot more than that.
And if we could just solidify that base before we dive deep into this. I mean, you were a national account manager, you were a CEO, you were a director, you were in sales ops. I mean, you kind of saw the gamut of what you could imagine being in the corporate space, right?
Yeah, for sure. Different. And I tell people it was anywhere from lead acid batteries to bagels to SaaS to manufacturing, right? I was one of those job hoppers, which they told you earlier in your career not to do because it's a bad thing. It'll hurt your corporate progress. And so over time, it was what we did, right? It was, you go to work, you build your life around your work. You don't think anything because this is what you were expected to do. You pay the bills, right? You hopefully take a nice vacation and, spend some quality family time. And I just followed that path that I think a lot of us followed.
And so, Brett, let's go into it. Can you explain the trend of Gen X corporate escapees, what that is, and why they're leaving?
I think the biggest thing is, one, they're ready to take control, right? I used to, when I first started this, I'm like, man, we grew up as Gen X. It was latchkey kids. We had a lot of freedom, not a ton of oversight, and you learn from your mistakes. And then over the years in corporate, you just got into this box, right? Don't rock the boat, don't make any big mistakes, and you just kind of follow. And I think we just, at least speaking for myself, got a taste of that freedom again and said, I just want to go back, right? I'm done with it. My kids are getting older. And quite honestly, is this what I'm going to do for the next 20 to 30 years? I'm like, no, thank you. And I think a lot of folks are just getting to that point, one. And then two, as I say, you can quit corporate or corporate's going to quit you at some point. I think a lot more people are finding that's happening, right? So fewer jobs, less pay. Ageism is real out there. I mean, fortunately, it
Mm.
didn't happen to me, but there's a number of stories, and in the press, you see the data that it's just all things are pointing against Gen X in the corporate space. And so either you're going to get pushed or you can jump. You're going to be your choice.
Yeah, I've heard so many of the people that we talk with refer to it actually as the corporate expiration date, right? Like, how long can you actually afford to do this? And then it amazes me when you say, you thought you were alone, thinking like, gosh, why am I not grateful? I've got a great job, a great career, but just that nagging thought that there has to be more and thinking you're the only one. According to Gallup, what would you guess? What percentage of people feel the same way? You guys have maybe heard the statistic. I'm not sure.
I'm, I do. I'm guessing it's super high, right? Based
Yeah.
on what I've learned the last few years.
Yeah. I mean,
I wasn't in the corporate world, but I escaped my career a couple of years ago. So I'm with you. I had it and I was like, no, I'm done with this.
yeah, this is actually the majority. They would estimate 3/4 of the working population feels the same way. So 75%, 78%. I've seen that number fluctuate. Now, keep in mind, we've been doing this for almost 40 years or over 40 years at this point in time. And that number really hasn't changed from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I mean, so I feel like it is actually a human condition. And isn't it crazy though, Brett? Many people think they're on this journey by themselves, that they need to go at it alone. And I think the numbers that you were sharing about how, as you put your journey out on TikTok and you were sharing the message and just talking about what you did to escape corporate America, you realize that there is a need for it out there. People are clamoring to hear your message and find out how you mustered up the courage to take that first step. Because what you did, is very courageous. Most people, when they look at the devil they know versus the devil they don't, they're like,
Right.
it sucks and I feel like I don't have purpose, but it beats the alternative. So how did you muster up the courage to actually just take that first step and go solo?
Yeah, I just hit that breaking point, right? It just, earlier in your career, you can disagree with management or some of the other things, and you say your piece, then you move on because it's ultimately, again, it wasn't even my company, but I'm like, fundamentally, this isn't what I want to do. And instead of having a plan, I just said, you know what, we'll agree to disagree, and I'm moving on, and I can do this solo, but didn't have a plan. So hindsight 2020, I would have built more of a bridge to do it, but it just got to that breaking point. And the one thing I want to touch on that you mentioned, that being alone, right? 2 years into it, I thought, I still had done most of this by myself. A lot of people didn't even know I went solo because I was afraid to tell people, right? Oh, you left corporate. What are you doing? Right? What are you thinking by doing that? But the other eye-opening thing for me was about a year after I left, my wife and I were having a conversation. And by this point I got my footing, right? So I probably knew I wasn't going back into corporate. I had built enough of a runway. And she's like, what was the matter with you? Or actually her word was, what the hell was the matter with you back when I was still in consulting, right? Great job, right? On the surface, all kids were happy. Everything was on the surface looked really good, but something was just off within me. So I think internally I just got to that point where it was time to make a change. Or, I think there was an article in Fortune or Forbes or one of them talking about divorce rates with Gen X and, the job leading and pushing down that path, which hindsight, I completely understand that now.
Yeah, and one of the things that you were talking about switching up, that's what I found in my previous career too. I looked at the guys I respected who had been in it for 30 years and they're divorced or, not spending time with their kids. And so, I mean, I understand that, Brett. And there's, a lot people seeking solo opportunities, business opportunities. Can you talk to us a little bit about that trend when it comes to entrepreneurship and kind of seeking their own thing?
Yeah, and I think it's a newer trend, right? Because which has been super helpful. Because when I first thought about it, I didn't know there was alternatives, right? You start a business, it's you get into a franchise, and a lot of people I'm like, I don't want to build a big company, right? That's just not what I want to do. It's just, how do I make some money? And like I said, by accident, I kind of discovered, well, not the consulting. People have been doing solo consulting, but then I fell into fractional leadership. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then kind of found I could resell services into my network. I found that there was advisory type of services, and it didn't have to fit into this neat box that we used to have in corporates that it has to be this way, right? These small businesses, and as you guys talk about, these small and mid-sized businesses, startups, nonprofits are hungry for people with 2 decades of experience, but could never afford it before. Now, all of a sudden, you got people coming out of corporate that have this, that want to work with these companies. And there's flexible ways to kind of build support for those businesses. Like I said, it could be advisory, it could be a host of different ways. And so that's where I've kind of taken that path. I know fractional is a really big opportunity for a lot of folks, which makes sense. It's a nice stepping stone from corporate into solo. But like I said, I've found there's other ways to monetize your experience without having to be super business savvy or like this great entrepreneur. It's just, again, getting back to your roots, being okay, being uncomfortable a little bit, right? The courageous part is being comfortable being uncomfortable for a while. And nobody's going to get mad at you if the deal goes sideways or it doesn't work, right? I think we're too conditioned from corporate, just you can't take too many chances or too many risks. Here, it's like, hey, you work with this business. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you move on to the next one. There's, I think, 33 million small businesses, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that area. So again, if that business didn't work, there's somebody else that's out there. And the last kind of piece I'll say on this is, coming from corporate, you only need, a handful of these customers, 2, 3, 4. If you're fractional, probably only need 2 to replace what you were doing with your corporate income. But, maybe 5. So it's not like you have to have this whole marketing engine. You don't have to do all these things. For the most part, you can leverage your network to get the clients that you need. And, it comes all the way back to, what does your vision look like? And is it more free time? Is it money? And I think that's the other thing that surprised me with the number of folks I talked to is it's not money first anymore, right? It's about having that freedom and the flexibility and purpose. I think that's another one that surprised me was, in corporate, the only purpose is to pay the bills, right? That's
right.
it. Outside of it, all of a sudden, even if you're doing some work with these small businesses and that's not your ultimate purpose, it gives you more time to go really do what you want to do, where we couldn't do that in the past.
Yeah. And T, when we were researching this this discussion we're going to have with Mark, one of the things we looked at were what you talk about are these think through opportunities. Can you explain what those are, Brett, and how those things can be effective?
What do you think through?
Yeah, for Brett, I was just saying, T and I had been talking about that and looking and talking about, the corporate escapee and some of the things that you really emphasize.
Yeah. Sorry, I was confused there for a minute. That's on me.
Oh, we're in the zone. It's all good.
Yeah, it's been a journey, right? So as I left, my entire goal was just to replace my income or make more money. And then I got deeper into it. What I started to think, what is it I really want? Right back to your book, which is phenomenal. And again, you guys would have saved me probably 12 months, 18 months if I read the book before I got started. Was think through everything. And it's not just the revenue. It's what do you want out of your life? Like the 2.0, I believe, is your life vision. And it's so important. And I had never done that up until, like I said, 2 years into my solo journey, that said, geez, there's actually more to this than I had thought. Do I want to live here in Chicago, or do I want to work from wherever? How many hours do I actually want to work a week? Who do I want to work with? Right. I kind of had the no jerks policy adopted. I'm not working with clients that are like that. And I'm not working with any partners like that. And that was kind of liberating in itself. But yeah, so it's just, again, I encourage people to think through, what do you really want? It can change, but it's okay to actually take some time for yourself. Where are you with your health, both mental and physical? I think we underappreciate how important or how much of a toll that corporate places you that there. How much time are you spending with friends and family? Are you spending what you want? And so start to really look forward, and everybody's going to be different, but then you can start to build your job, if you will, or your work around your life versus, building your life around your work. So it's been a fascinating journey over 4 years, learned a lot, but like I said, now I'm trying to help people accelerate that learning curve, because you don't have to make all the same mistakes, right?
Right. And what I love, and that's why there's so much synergy, Brett, between what you're doing and what we're doing, is just for people to give themselves the opportunity to learn, right? People think that it's either corporate America or it's doing something completely for yourself. And, many people will talk themselves right out of that saying, well, I don't identify with being an entrepreneur, so I guess I just need to suck it up, right? And be an
Right.
employee for the rest of my life. But what I have found is there's so many varieties of entrepreneurship, right? You could be a solopreneur, kind of like what you're doing. You could be part of a smaller business. You could be part of a franchise, right? Even in franchising, I remember I was actually opposed to the idea because I came from the hospitality industry. And when I heard franchising, I thought that's the last thing I want to be a part of. I'm done with fast food and French fries, right? That's not my career aspirations. And then I realized, like, hang on, not so fast. Even in that business format, quick service restaurants is just one segment. There's probably 80 or 90 different industries. And the more I learned about it, I realized that these people were not entrepreneurs with a vision of a product or a service that they wanted to take to the marketplace, but they realized that they could participate in somebody else's proven system in a business, right? So once I got that, I realized I can be an entrepreneur, I can be a business owner, and I don't need to be a lone wolf out there. So we're not trying to say everybody should be an entrepreneur or business owner or franchisee or anything like that. But at the very least, give yourself the opportunity to learn what else is out there and what other people have done. Maybe starting a business from scratch is right for you. Maybe joining an organization of entrepreneurs or franchises, something like that, is right for you, but you won't know until you explore it. My worldview has forever changed. I agree with you. I feel like we have an abundance of resources right at our fingertips. There's never been a better time to become self sufficient and create a life that molds around your purpose and your passions as opposed to the other way around. So I know I get a little passionate about that,
You talk about the
but
lone wolf. What I hear you saying is that nobody needs to walk alone. Is that right?
nobody needs to walk alone. I mean, I guess the other thing I underestimated is the power of borrowed belief. A mentor or a coach who can help you build confidence, who can help you see that maybe you're stealing your own dream, and that, somebody who can just help you to take that first step, right? Because everything is scary until you do it. And then you look back and you're like, why didn't I do this 5 years ago, right, Brett? 10 years ago, maybe even a lot sooner.
Yeah, and it's so true on well, one, I want to just touch on the franchise thing because, again, I think the business in the box, I know that's oversimplified. I'm still looking for those types of opportunities, right? Because it just makes sense. Again, I don't want to build a business from scratch, but I know there's some concepts that are interesting that as I go through, I wouldn't be surprised if I head down that path at some point. Just begin diversifying, find the right, to your point, it's just not restaurants anymore. Used to think it was McDonald's or Burger King, or maybe Burger King's not even that, but you name it, there's probably a concept out there for it. So now I'm a big believer in that piece of it. And the walking alone, it's, again, I walked alone for about 2 years and then finally realized there was a world of others out there that were kind of had taken the same journey. And when I have initial conversations with folks, right, either off TikTok or through LinkedIn, I'm offering free 20-minute, kind of mini strategy, but it's really just an intro call to answers any questions. And everybody's like, well, I don't know am I crazy for thinking I can do this? I'm like, no, you're
No.
absolutely not crazy, right? So it's just some of that reassurance that, yes, it's okay. You do have the experience and the skills to do it. And interestingly, and again, interesting to me, that the other day I posted something about people right now, Gen X, that are looking for a new job. How many resumes have you sent out? How many companies have you contacted? How many networking calls have you had? Like, if you put half of that energy into try and find customers, you wouldn't be even looking at a corporate job anymore. Because I know for myself, when I was job hunting, how much time I put into it. And then when I'm looking for customers now, I'm like, I really need to amp my game up a little bit because I don't take always that same sense of urgency or passion to go get new business. And then I started to think, well, it's the same process. So if I'm looking to go work for a company, right, there's a problem that I'm really good at solving, and that company has a problem either internally or with their customers, and there's a fee that they're going to have to pay me to do that. I'm like, that's what we're doing with small businesses, right? They have a problem. I can help you solve that problem. And here's what my fee is to do it. So everything that we've been doing in corporate, trying to land those, is the exact same thing we're looking to do to find new customers. So if we just reframe that and approach it that way, again, business owners are happy to hear from you if you can solve their problem, right? Because in the old days, 2 or 3 years ago, they'd have to hire somebody full time. And most of the time they couldn't afford the 20 years of experience, right? So they're taking somebody junior or brand new into it. So they're rolling the dice that this person is going to be able to do that job. Now we're offering them alternatives. So as you can tell, I'm a little passionate about saying, yes, you have the
Absolutely.
experience to go do this.
And
So
it's not just consulting as well, though, T. It's coaching, and you see that time and again about how valuable that can be.
Absolutely. I mean, coaching makes all the difference. Having a mentor, having a community, having somebody you could use as a sounding board, but also somebody who can help you beyond your limiting beliefs, right? Because I think so many people stay in a situation that they're unhappy with. We call it the battered career syndrome, rather than mustering up the courage to do something that could actually improve their life. So our journey is really one of experience. We say, we'll work with you under one condition. Don't make any decisions prematurely. Just see what's out there. And once you have your North Star and you know this life you're looking to create, then we expose you to the different vehicles, right? Are you better off starting something from scratch? Are you better off partnering with someone? Are you better off being part of a franchise? And even within franchising, what I love, those light bulb moments. I remember for myself, it was one when Terry, our founder, said to me, Tamara, it sounds like you're really frustrated that you're working on somebody else's dream rather than your own, right? It sounds like you would like to have more control and freedom in your life, the opportunity to create a legacy or build wealth and equity. All I ask of you is keep an open mind, make no decisions. Can you do that? And of course, my self-perception is like, have you met me? I'm all about possibilities. I'll keep an open mind, no problem. And then he said, okay, so what if I had you look not only at entrepreneurship or business ownership, but let's say, just for giggles, a porta potty concept. And I'm like, are you crazy? Are you insane? I mean, have you met me? What about me says I would love to be in a business like that? And he said, well, this is interesting. I thought you would have an open mind. What do you know about that concept as it relates to the income you said you want to generate? As it relates to the freedom and flexibility you told me you wanted, as it relates to long-term wealth and equity? What if you found that people in a business like that have all those things that you say you aspire to have? Would that make a difference, right? And so people sometimes ask me, so did you look at the porta potty business? Did you invest in it? And I said, no. But the lesson was not lost on me, because it made me realize that we're looking for a passion, or we're looking to actually kind of do the definition of insanity. The thing that drove me crazy in corporate America, now I'm trying to create it on my own, right? But if I'm open-minded, the world of possibilities open up to you. And now I feel like I can literally participate confidently in over 80 or 90 different industry sectors. Brett, when you and I were talking the one day, I said, I just need to be careful not to suffer from SOS, shiny object syndrome, because there's so many
100%.
things that I could possibly be doing and get excited about. And all of those things have the potential to create this better life I am seeking. I just need to pick one or two. But what a frame of mind, what a worldview to have, to think that there's so many possibilities out there. I'm a kid in a candy store, as opposed to what I know many corporate refugees feel like, or many corporate escapees feel like, right? Feeling like they don't have any options. They're being aged out. They're questioning their transferable skills, whether they can create value. So all I'm asking is partner with somebody, connect with Brett, connect with one of our coaches, and don't make any decisions. Just kind of allow yourself to learn and see what could be possible.
Just give
That's all.
yourself permission to dream, T.
Yeah.
As we kind of wrap things down here, just Brett, any closing thoughts, any advice you might have, or things you really want to express, especially when we're looking at kind of that corporate escapee, that Gen X segment there.
Yeah, like I said, if somebody's paying you to do a job, you have the skills and expertise to go solo. It's that simple, and that's why I love you guys, because we do have that shared vision. Like, educate yourself. I don't care if you stay the corporate course and you feel that's best for you. Just educate yourself. It's free, and don't do it alone. Again, two of my biggest lessons coming back were absolutely that way. And it's funny. I'll just close on one thing, because I had a conversation with somebody this week. super successful corporate career, but he's been out for 6 months trying to find something. It is now doubting. He was starting to doubt himself that he actually, maybe I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And it just all those things that built you for 20 years now starting to question what you're doing. So I'm like, yes, you do have the skills are there. And I don't care what, if you're a CRM specialist or you are actually the, CMO, anywhere in between, there's folks that are looking. And guess what? They're actually going to listen to you. When's the last time you were listened to in your corporate role, or actually somebody really listened to you? So, I mean, that's the other refreshing. We could probably talk for hours about this, but yeah, no, I love the shared values of this. And like I said, it's just, everybody just needs to educate themselves, please.
Oh, we appreciate it. And definitely, I hope, I know our audience just took a lot from this conversation, so I appreciate it. Once again, I want to thank our guest, Brett Trainor. He is the creator and founder of the Corporate Escapee. You can find him online, bretttrainor.com. You can find him on TikTok, maybe for a few more days. I don't know. We'll see for how that goes. But yeah, definitely look it up, especially if you're a member of that corporate escapee, Gen X generation looking for a change. I think we just gave you a whole bunch of reasons why possibilities are endless. So, Brett, thank you so much for joining us. Tamara Loring, the Chief of Brand Ideology for the Entrepreneur Source. Thank you once again. My name is Mike Toper, and have a good day. Thanks, guys.